can we briefly talk about the My Little Pony moment?
Yeah, I wasn't bothered.
No? Okay, I thought maybe I was being...
Oh, I get that. But I think the My Little Pony fan art that was posted in our Discord, I liked it because I think what's disturbing about it is that she realizes she's morphing as she's morphing. And so, like, that's where the really disturbing aspect of it comes. But she's just morphing from her Equestria Girls form, which is a canon form, to her regular form. It's all the stuff in between that's like... So, like, yeah, I didn't know. I don't think...
I think it was
I understand.
Would it kill you to read a book, Eddie? Would it kill you to read a book?
Rainbow Dash has a whole episode about not being ashamed of reading where she gets into a series of books about Daring Do, the Indiana Jones equivalent, who is actually just a negative color swap palette of her.
Wow.
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Catherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are... the Anidorks. These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Are we, like, in it? Is this canon episode now that we've clapped?
Yeah, it can be.
Well, we just can't talk about
Eddie
that.
had some ground rules that... Eddie was very upset with me after last session.
Oh.
Eddie is reviving the beef. Eddie is putting the beef back in the skillet.
So I would say, in this sense, Miranda's a very good
sizzling?
student, and Chris
I'm the good
is...
student?
Oh my God.
little rebel.
You're calling into
Miranda
question
is
my
very good about...
studentship?
Yes, your studentship is in question.
Oh
yes.
my goodness.
Let me just say, you would never cut it as...
All right, we're probably going to bleep that, but I want to put in a quick note. I drove by that school today, and they're doing Mamma Mia. And I just think the choice of a high school to do a show about a woman who's not sure who the father of her child is a little weird.
Yeah. Pretty sick.
Well, this is a revelation to me that so many, and this is, I was not in musical theater, I merely attended the shows, that many of the shows that kids do are technically inappropriate. Like, I think that you said, Chris, they do a revised version, but I had no idea what Les Mis was actually about.
Sometimes. And I mean, sometimes they do, but
nothing in Les Mis is, well, the prostitute
Lovely
section
ladies.
is, okay, Lovely Ladies. I walked
What's
it
Lovely
back.
Ladies?
It's Fontaine.
Let's just stop right there. Let's just Eddie can look that up on his own time. We have a podcast.
If you know anything about Fontaine's
Andalites.
arc, Fontaine's Lovely Ladies, but everything
Eddie
else
doesn't know about Fontaine's
I
arc.
do now. I watched the scene of Anne Hathaway singing.
So now Eddie's an expert.
Yeah, you got it now. You got it. But yeah, the fact that they never cut that. They changed some of the lyrics, but they never cut that because, like, the fact that it's important to the plot. But everything else is like...
I don't
They
give
do,
a
like,
shit.
the whole
I'm
show,
just
they just
saying,
cut
like,
verses.
It's just like when
Now,
it's
Gay
like,
Miz
Chris,
would have
why
been
didn't-
inappropriate for...
I can't speak
there was
to
a
that.
song in Gay Miz about how they didn't have children in the show. You remember this?
Oh,
Eddie.
well, that's
They
also
had a
the
song
other thing.
in Gay Miz about how, like, they couldn't give Rush because the show was too gay.
That's right.
Yeah,
they got in trouble. Yeah,
Usually
got in
there are
trouble.
at least 3 children in the show.
Anyway, okay. I would love to talk about Les Mis for an hour. But if we can somehow work it into the context of it.
Right, you
Well,
were
no, I'm just going to go back
Chris
to
about
scolding
something?
you, Chris.
Okay,
scolding.
yes, please. Bring it back.
We've
Yes.
evolved.
I'm a bad student.
You were a bad student.
I know I'm such a bad student. I'm sorry.
I asked Chris if they would read the chapter descriptions a little bit more faithfully.
Eddie's school as vicious as Roman rule. All right. Eddie's school as vicious
Edwin
as
Nero,
Roman
they call him.
rule. I got my knuckles bruised by an Eddie at
in
school.
black. Oh. I haven't thought about that song.
Wait, what is this song?
I know. It's I'll Follow You Into the Dark. It's Death Cab for Cutie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And everybody, it's very big. We were talking recently about how I didn't really have an emo phase on my stream. And, like, I didn't, so I don't know that song. But, like, that's why I don't think of that song. But then I do, and I'm like, that was kind of a nice song. I prefer the Postal Service.
Do you know what song? Okay, best Death Cab song. I think Lack of Color is the first thing that comes to my mind. I like that song.
I don't listen to Pokemon. I'm sorry.
I really think I've only heard.
Okay, Chris. Who's doing the scolding now?
My favorite, the book song is Tokyo off the Lemon and Pink.
Oh, that's a good song.
But no, so Eddie really wants me to read. We have to read these chapter descriptions as accurately as possible.
With oomph.
And with oomph?
With oomph.
So accurately and with oomph. Okay.
Yeah, the oomph is implied. And I just feel like Chris's readings have been a little stale, so just
Whoa.
no one would ever accuse you of that, Chris.
It could just be that you're a massive bitch right now.
This is the kind of hot drama you can only get on an Anidorks pod, or on the Anidorks podcast, an Animorphs read along podcast.
Well, we get some
filled with nothing but people in their 30s who should be above this.
And I should be able to read aloud, but I can't.
Well, I watched the reunion for Traitor season 3, and I'm feeling inspired now. So.
Oh, I finished it too.
Yeah.
Oh. And Miranda, you have the book up, right?
I do. I just made sure
but
I do.
Children,
Ooh.
They argue a bit in this book, so I thought
true.
why not the Anidorks?
I'm not even going to ask what you said because I'm sure it's inflammatory. Let's start with chapter 12, shall we?
Chapter 12.
Oh, I guess who's reading?
Look who's reading.
Look who's reading. It's me.
Go ahead and start. I'll even give it to you off the clock.
Okay. Chapter 12. The Andalites have rescued Axe. He is aboard the Andalite assault ship Ascalin, the same that he saw traveling through Z-space.
I'm sorry, how did you pronounce that?
Ascalin.
All right.
Listen, no, you can't act like you both didn't do this in the first episode. This is not new. This is not now. The fact that Eddie wrote it out.
What out?
That's a step up. Ascalin. For instance, say Ascalin.
Ascalin.
Oh, Ascalin. Ascalin.
All right. I'm starting the timer. Go.
Okay. The Andalites have rescued Axe. He is traveling aboard the Andalite assault ship Ascalin, the same ship that he saw traveling through Z-space moments ago. He is surrounded by 3 Andalite warriors. Captain Samelin, the captain's tactical officer, Harlan, and the ship's physician, who I've chosen not to name here. Axe's first concern is whether the Andalites saved his friends, the other Animorphs. The physician confirms that everyone is alive and aboard the ship. Captain Samelin then demands to know how Axe arrived in Z-space with these strange bipedal aliens. Axe tries to explain he had been morphing into a very small creature and then... Impossible, the doctor cries. You are the extruded mass from a low-mass morph? I mean, it's not impossible, perhaps, but it's never happened. This will annihilate every existing theory of morph mass displacement. Captain Samelin asks how the other Animorphs came to possess morphing powers. At first, Axe struggles to answer, distracted by the bittersweet relief he feels being around his own people again. He thought that he might be trapped on Earth for the remainder of his life, and yet here he was, speaking with other Andalites. Then Axe begins to tell the whole story, beginning with crash landing on Earth. The only trouble is that Axe has instructions from Andalite Command not to reveal that Elfangor shared the morphing ability with humans. So Axe tries to lie about this, claiming that it was in fact he who shared the Andalite technology, but he immediately makes an enormous mistake in his storytelling. How could the humans morph into dolphins to rescue Axe from the shipwreck if they only acquired the ability upon meeting him? The captain dismisses the ship's physician before asking Axe why he is lying to him. Axe says that he would never lie unless... But at that moment, Captain Samelin understands. This must not be Axe's first time interacting with Andalite since he arrived on Earth. He must already be following orders from someone higher up the Andalite command. The captain asks what happened to Elfangor, and Axe tells him that he died by the hand of Visser III. Tactical Officer Harolin is shocked, piecing together that Elfangor had violated the law of Zero's kindness, giving those 5 humans the power to morph. Captain Samlin says this speculation will never leave this room. It was Axe who foolishly shared the morphing ability with those humans, but the captain once served under Prince Elfangor and was honored to call him a friend. The captain could believe Elfangor broke the rules, but he'd never believe Elfangor capable of doing wrong. Nice chapter.
I do. I like this chapter.
Yeah.
A lot happens.
All right. So chapter 13. Let's go straight into it. No, this is a great one. I want to hit these alien names because we do get the full names. I just want to get them on the record. I don't have much to say about them, but Samilin Karath Gahar is the captain. Tactical Officer Hareli Fraudlin Serenial. And then we have the doctor, who we didn't name here, but Coldwin Ashul Tahakiel. Tag yourself in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know, listeners, which one of those 3 you are. Are you the tactical officer, the doctor, or the captain? Let us
Those are the only options.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we get a freaking Andalite curse word too. What in yaolin are you doing here? Like, is yaolin probably their word for hell then? Is it a 1-for-1 for hell? Is that like Andalite hell is yaolin?
Maybe. It could also be something like God's name.
It could mean God's name. It could mean, like, what the heck? I don't know.
Heck, I think of as a hell replacement.
That's true.
A hell substitute.
I just mean it is a substitute, but it's also like not necessarily. It's a substitute, but it's not the place. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. It doesn't have to mean like the underworld.
Heck is like way less bad than hell. If you go to heck, that's like manageable. It's
right.
Just you gotta move some stuff around.
Is that entry level hell?
Entry level hell.
I was struck by the captain. We just talked about their names. Captain Samlin, saying, Elfangor was my friend as well as my prince. I'll believe he broke the rules. I'll never believe he did wrong. And this is a key, like, lawful good moment that I wanna catch here. Not.
All right, don't
worry about lawful good. Yeah. I wanna highlight here that he believes that there is a case where breaking a rule may be the right thing to do. That's all I want to highlight.
Yeah, because he is a tricky little captain.
Yeah,
he's a tricky little captain.
But I said too much.
Okay, but do we think that Elfangor and Samlin, is there history there?
Are you kidding me? He was he was his technical officer.
No. That's pretty important.
That's
worth
hesitating on. Like, they worked together.
Yes, but was there a relationship outside of
Eddie? No.
Oh, yeah, no.
Eddie, look at my hands while I do this. They worked together as Chris.
Yes,
and that's Frackies.
Now, Elfangor, maybe he didn't think they worked together, but Samlin thought they worked together. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say my only thing is that. My only thing is that Andalites do seem to have very strict rules. So if there are anti-fraternization rules, I don't think they broke them. But they've both agreed there are times when breaking the rules is necessary.
Is the word for horny hoovy in Andalite speak?
Pointy tail.
Yaolin?
Oh, the tails, right.
The tails.
Yaolin.
Yaolin. That's what yaolin means.
What the horny?
Or like, yeah.
What the horny?
What's the randy equivalent? What's
I've always hated that word. I don't know why.
It's a terrible fucking word. It's so bad. It's a terrible fucking word.
Bad word for fun.
So we also get that when Axe gives his report to Captain Samlin, he says, I've been on Earth for 0.7 standard Andalite years, which we know nothing about the Andalite years. So that is not a drop. That means nothing here.
We don't know anything.
But I am curious when we're done, if we can comb back over and try and establish how much time has actually likely passed.
Oh, and what that would correlate to in Andalite years.
Exactly. Then we can start to figure out an orbit pattern and we can probably make some assumptions there and come up with a couple models for what the Andalite solar system.
What do we currently think? How much time do we think has passed since A few
4
months?
minutes and 30
6
seconds
months?
since we started the episode.
Since
If we assume that a
construction
standard
site.
Andalite year is the same as a human year, 0.7 would be closer to 3/4, so 9-ish months.
Okay. And
Yeah,
does that seem
if they were
right
the
for-
same.
If they were the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a few books ago we felt like it had been 6 months, so like I could buy that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, seasons do not exist in this world.
No,
that the Animorphs-
I wanted to try to track it by how many times they say the moon is full, but they say it all the fucking time.
The moon is always full on Lyra.
Yeah.
Another thing that I really liked was when Axe gives his report, it comes out. He tries to explain how the humans got the morphs, and he gets caught in a lie, as Eddie put in his description. And the was it the doctor or was it the TO? The TO's, I think it was
It's
the
the
TO
TO.
turns and says, "You young fool. Like you
Yeah.
gave yourself away. You couldn't have, they couldn't have saved you if they hadn't gotten the morphs from Malfangor already." And it just like, "You young fool."
You
Like,
young fool is
I
going
need to
yeah.
say that more
It's
at
the
parties.
I really think it needs to replace "Oh My Sweet Summer Child." I think that's
Oh,
over.
my sweet summer
I
child.
think
I'm
that's
never going to
over.
stop saying that to Eddie.
That's
But-
fair.
Yeah, but
Especially because he was born in winter. But like
exactly.
I think for the most part that's over. We're transitioning to "You Young Fool." Okay? That's
You
the
young
new
fool.
that's
what's
the
in.
new
We're
yeah.
trendsetters here at Animorphs. Anidorks. Oh my god.
We're the Animorphs. You
We're
can't
the
tell them that.
Animorphs. We're the Anacool kids.
Wait, do we think that our personalities line up with Harlan, the physician, and Similian?
I'm tagging myself the doctor. Done. Miranda's the technical officer. Eddie's the traitor.
Yeah.
I'm the traitor.
I mean the captain.
You're yerked.
Yeah,
That's true.
But I'm self fascinated.
I think we also like
I'm a
I would be
self-starter.
I also want to say you rewrote the laws of mass extrusion. Didn't we always assume that it
Oh.
could happen? It just hadn't happened. So like
No.
did we rewrite the law? Like
He's also very confident that it hasn't happened before.
But I think what they thought would happen is you'd just be dead. Like you'd be splattered and dead, and that you wouldn't necessarily be a viable.
You wouldn't like pop into Z space,
Okay,
yeah.
but given
Also,
that
I'm
what
going
happens
back to school to major in morph mass displacement. Like
morph
I'm
mass
so
displacement
stoked.
is- oh,
yeah,
they-
I'm gonna
oh,
write a freaking paper.
goated.
But isn't it so? As far as we
Base.
understand, no time has even passed. Oh, well, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. But there doesn't seem to be much trace that someone leaves behind if this happens to them, right? Like they shoot into Z space, and then most of the time they die. Like if it had happened,
we don't know.
before,
We've
would
never
anyone
known.
know? Yeah,
I think
If
there's-
that
I think
had
it's
happened, how would we
infrequent
know?
Enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they just had theories that it would be unpleasant, but now it's like I don't know, because like, yeah, they were trying to.
Because like when
This
Axe
is
was
why
asked
I'm not
about
the
it before,
physician,
he's
though.
like
Yep.
a ship could hit you, but like that would never happen. The odds are so low, despite everything being compressed into basically anti-space, which I assume is like a single point. Anyway, moving on.
No. I think we're gonna get more opportunities to actually pick this apart.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
I agree.
I think. All
Chapter
right,
13.
Here we go. Chapter 13. Here we go. I'm on my best behavior, Ed.
thank you.
I'm gonna move my mic closer so I can actually look.
No hesitation.
Eddie, I'm not that good at reading. Axe reunites with the other Animorphs in the Ascalin sickbay. Ascalin sickbay. I'm just saying it right now.
I think that's how
Catches
Miranda
them-
said it.
He catches them up on what he knows of their situation. The doctor and the other scientists aboard the good ship Ascalin are working on a theory of how the kids ended up there, in addition to whether it's possible to return home. Perhaps they will not have to do anything. There may be an inevitable snapback effect where they are sent back to where they came from. But it's impossible to say right now. More importantly, the Ascalin is about to arrive at the planet Lyra to defend its people from the Yeerks. Lyra, Cassie clarifies. As in the psychic frogs who the Yeerks were going to infest hammerhead sharks to fight against? Duh, Axe says. He explains that the Andalites are heavily outnumbered as well. It's kind of their kink. With a third of the forces. Sorry, Ed. I will be good. I will read it exactly as written. Rachel asks what they can do to help, and Axe says that they can do nothing. The fact that Visser 3 was able to obtain a Khafiit bird morph has led Axe to believe that the Andalite ranks have been infiltrated by the Yeerks. The Animorphs can't trust anyone, Axe explains. If you do get back to Earth somehow, he says, that will put you in too much danger. If you get back to Earth, Cassie asks, aren't you coming back to Earth with us? Why had Axe said that? He's too busy trying to process all the feelings and complications that come from with this situation. He hadn't thought enough about any of this. The idea of being separated from his friends was too painful of a thought to consider. Rachel says that if anyone is fighting the Yeerks, she will be there to help, no question. Axe concedes, but he says that they all must follow the captain's orders. He is just a lowly arist. He must obey. Axe apologizes to Jake. Needless to say, Jake is no longer his prince, now that he's back among his own people. Tobias direct messages Axe. That is, he BMs Axe, he DMs Axe. Ha! Yes, very good. Must sound very natural when I say it. DMs. Miranda, cut all of that. Tobias DMs Axe that maybe he needs to think about who his people are now. I'm not like you, Axe says. I'm not an Athlete. No, Tobias answers, but I don't think that you're a lowly Arissa anymore either. And whether you like it or not, you're one of us. Axe ignores Tobias before leaving the sickbay. Axe announces that the captain has ordered all of them to remain here in this room until the situation is stable. Stable. Please, he says, do not attempt to move about the ship. Oh my God, that was hard.
Sorry.
I can't read.
No,
and Miranda was moving it
That
around.
was wonderful, Chris.
Thank you. I just want to be a good little student.
I don't feel like they're giving Axe enough credit for like the weirdness of the situation he's in, being thrust back into his buzzword here, high power distance culture. You know what I mean? Like he has to like respect them, and he can't really ask questions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard for him. He's
asking for Axe, if you will.
Yeah.
Axing for Axe. Asking the right questions. I'm just trying to get my title in now.
Right. He just like
Axing all the right questions.
I don't know if that's going to make
on
the
the
cut this time,
Ascalin.
Chris.
But
I got a million more, baby.
But so, yeah, Rachel's just like immediately like, oh, so you're like, you don't care about us. And it's like, that is not what anybody said. And I just like, I don't know. I feel like they're too hard on him.
They are really hard.
He's in an incredibly difficult position. But I do feel like, the emotions that they're experiencing with the information that they have and also their age, I can understand. I don't think there's no one's having a bad Marco day right now.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like even Rachel's not at Marco when he's on his worst behavior right now. At this moment. I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
I think that where some of this stuff is going to be coming from is just how helpless the Animorphs feel. I think like they feel so out of their element, and then their one sort of like interface to this world and to this thing is basically telling them they're powerless, which means they have to like Axe is accidentally making himself an enemy. And like that's like what's happening in the game of Survivor that is this war. There's some really like great moments of confusion in this where they're like going back and forth and he's explaining what happens and like Marco's trying to pick through and like understand what's going on. And I was wondering, could you give me a line read on one of my favorite lines from Marco I think I've ever seen? Mm-hmm. It's like right at the beginning of the chapter. I have it here in my notes. See, it's you see it? It's my first note.
I do, yes.
Okay, so Axe is explaining the situation, but he's left out one crucial detail, and Marco is now going to hit that question. Eddie, if you could just give that your best Marco. In the
At
notes,
the beginning of chapter 13, it's the third line.
Where are we? That's my Marco.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Hell yeah. Miranda, would you like to give it your best Marco?
Yeah, and I'm going to just give a little bit of advice to aspiring actors. If a word is written multiple times, generally you're going to want a different reading for each of those things. You know, there's a reason the character said it multiple times. Otherwise they would have just
pointed, Chris, doesn't it?
No. Otherwise they would have just done like a wah, not a where. You know what I mean? So
all right.
So where are we?
Whoa, that was good.
Yeah.
I especially like where it ended up. It was. Now, I think there was another moment not long after this where Marco was talking about, like, he's like, so, okay, like, you've told us where we are, but, like, how does that explain why we were little mosquitoes and then just pop all of a sudden I'm back to being my cute little lovable, adorable self. Lovable self. He is so gassed up still from his haircut with Charisse.
You think he got another one? I think he had
another one right before this book because he is just so feeling himself in this book. Yeah, and it's really shining.
Frosted
Maybe he got some
Marco,
shoes. Other things could have that effect.
Yes, and the shoes. They like a whole matching outfit. Like he was in his best fit when they went to go get this Secret Service guy whose name he hates, who I already forgotten.
Hewlett Packard. I don't know.
Hewlett Packard.
Hewlett
So
Aldershot
many years
III
ago.
is
Hewlett
actual.
Packard Lovecraft, I think it was. So if we think about in this sick bay, there are, well, with Axe there's 6 children, right? And then Axe leaves the room and has to go back to where the grown-ups are, because they aren't grown-ups. This is a captain, like on the ship. Like, if we think about it in that sense, any kid, except maybe Chris, remembering how you were in middle school, you would be rebelling against the adults, but Axe isn't a little rebel. He is going to listen to the adults. And I feel like the power dynamic just there alone, that, like, what, we think they're like 12 years old and there's this grown-up Andalite. Now, I know age doesn't track in the same way across these two cultures, probably. But, like, it's funny that it doesn't even come up here. But, like, Axe, of course he's going to listen to the captain on the ship, you know? Like, it's...
it makes perfect sense.
The explanation of we don't know who we can trust, so the fact that humans have morph capability needs to be limited to the absolute need to knows. And honestly, like, we're already kind of screwed because we don't know if we can trust these guys.
Yeah.
So, like... He has a good reason for wanting them to stay, like, for following their orders so as not to raise suspicion.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this chapter sets up the tension so beautifully, whereas, like, the last chapter was sort of this exposition dump and also this reuniting with the Andalites. This one is now, like, it's like thesis, antithesis, or whatever. Like, this is him reconciling the world they've landed in and trying to do right by his human friends, and now we're going somewhere completely different.
Yeah. On that note, Chris, I did confirm after we recorded last time, I have been saying the word irreparably wrong for who knows how long. It's not irreparably. I kind of like the sound of irreparably, but it is irreparably.
It tells you what word it's related to.
Means.
Yeah, like it tells you what it means. I tried to be, you know, walk the middle ground and be like, there could be another pronunciation of that word that I've never heard.
I was pretty sure that
I knew that I wasn't saying it wrong, but that didn't mean that Eddie wasn't also saying it right. You know what I mean?
we knew what you meant, and that's what language is all about, baby.
That's true.
Take it away, chapter 14.
Chapter 14.
Can we hit one thing quickly? We don't even have to talk about it for long. The cute little private conversation between Tobias.
If
only Tobias could do this with Rachel.
Well, I would talk about that for hours. I feel like when we go to do our analysis episode, we should set aside a moment to talk about this, because there is so much there to unpack and, like, pick apart about. Just like Axe has chosen these humans and given a lot to them, and also had to reconcile his self-identity as an Andalite against his, like, enmeshment with them. And, like,
but he was also very much forced into that relationship. Like, he did not have... It is found family, but it's not necessarily chosen family. And he would choose would choose them now, but
but it's definitely a family of circumstance.
Yeah.
And I think in some way Tobias is trying to, like, mama bird him into like this, like, let's be real about what we've been to each other. And that's a really beautiful moment. There's some stuff in this book that is so deep and rich. I think we may even want to come up with topics when we go to do our our mini-sode episode.
And isn't there's just no dynamic like the uncle-nephew dynamic, and this scene is
All right.
rich
All
with
right.
that. No,
All
like
right.
for Uncle-Nephew Appreciation Month, this is what I'd put on the shelf at the library.
Women's Month.
Eddie's forgotten about Women's Month.
No,
We
this
know
is
how
for,
he
I'm
feels about
planning
women.
for September, whenever Uncle-Nephew...
Whenever this gets released.
Next March. Yeah, anyway, all right.
All right,
It'll be Women's Month every March. All right, chapter 14.
Chapter
Take it away,
14.
Miranda.
The captain calls Axe to the bridge of the Ascalin, though Axe is not sure why. Is Similin worried that Axe's friendship with the humans will cause a problem for the Andalites? Sure, Axe believes he is too low-ranking to be here on the bridge of the Ascalin with the captain, but he is also honored to be taken seriously by the captain and moved to be surrounded by his own people once again, to be among his own people here aboard the Ascalin. So, then why does Axe keep thinking of his friends confined to the sickbay? He's no reason to feel guilty. Yes, it made sense to align with the humans during his time on Earth, but now he was among Andalites again. Tactical Officer Harolin is there on the bridge as well. He debriefs Axe on the battle to come. Lyra is 92% water, with the Lyrans building their cities underwater. The Yeerks and Andalites would fight on the single continent where nobody lived. Tactical Officer Harolin also tests Axe's understanding of military strategy. He asks Axe why he thinks that the Yeerks do not simply engage the Andalites in orbit. Do the Yeerks not worry about the Andalites fighting alongside the Lyrans down on the surface of the planet? Axe is not sure. The TO explains that the Yeerks believe that different species do not fight well together. The Andalites have one way of doing things, the Lyrans another, and yet they will attempt to fight side by side. The Yeerks fight under a single command. There's a lesson there, Harolin tells Axe. Andalites are strongest when they fight on their own. Captain Similin agrees. He says that the Andalites are weak for wasting their numbers protecting the Lyrans. The battle begins down on the surface planet. The Ascalin prepares for landing, but suddenly, the Ascalin malfunctions. The controls of the ship freeze. Harolin tries to intervene, to take control of the Ascalin himself, but he realizes that for some reason, the Ascalin is already programmed to land behind Yeerk lines. Why would the Ascalin land there? Captain Similin calmly approaches Tactical Officer Harolin. Then, just like that, he uses his own tail blade to sever the Harolin's blade from his body. Actually, I think he severs it at the base of the tail. He severs the whole tail.
Yeah, the whole
Harolin's
tail.
tail falls to the deck and
He
twitches.
can now finally use a chair for the first time in his life.
The captain then attacks everyone else on deck with a Dracon beam, stunning them before aiming the weapon at Axe. Ah, my good wrist, Captain Similin says. I don't want to take the chance of injuring you. Visser 4 would be very upset if I injured the creatures who have been causing Visser 3 such trouble on Earth. Vissers 3 and 4 are such close friends. Just remain calm. It will all be over in a moment, and you will all be guests of the Yeerk Empire. New Visser just dropped? What?
Yeah.
Visser just dropped. Visser 4. Let's hear it. F's in the chat for Visser. No, wait. He's not. They're not dead.
Can we get some pogs in the chat
Can
for
we get
Visser
some
4?
pogs? for
Why are
Visser 4?
we just skipping over Visser 2?
Visser 4, thank you for the new sub.
I think we should have learned more about Visser 2 before we got Visser.
I agree.
4.
But all in due time.
Yeah.
I think we're setting up. I think we'll get them all in one scene someday.
I'm very curious about him being a friend of Visser 3, who, while we are endeared to him, seems thoroughly unlikable among his fellow Yeerks. So I'm very interested.
3 doesn't have many friends. It's true.
Now, did we take
I
that
think
seriously, or is Samilin? I wrote Similin there. Samilin being.
Did I say Similin? I said Similin because
Yeah,
that's what
but
you wrote.
I'm pretty sure it's Samilin. I have to check.
Look what
Keep
you've done.
going.
I feel
I'll
like
look
he
it
might
up.
have been being sarcastic.
It is Samilin.
Fuck!
Well, I wrote
Sorry, go ahead,
Similin,
Eddie.
Miranda.
You did. No,
Is he being sarcastic about what? About Visser 4?
The relationship between.
So you think it's another Visser 1 type situation where Visser 4 is going to be really
So,
excited
the
because
Yeerks-
he caught them and
The
Visser
Yeerks
3 is going
are
to look
very
dumb?
good at sarcasm. it's true. Or being facetious or doublespeak or something like that. So it is possible. But
is possible.
he might not be Yeerked. If he were Yeerked, I would say yes, that is him being rich. But like...
He does not... We're not told that he's Yeerked, at least. Yeah, he seems to just be a defector.
This is such a tough situation, though. Like, Axe not only made a choice to go with his, like, home culture, and he just in the past 2 chapters was exploring his responsibility to where he's from and where he's been. And it's just the, like, mental math that he's having to do, the arithmetic, if you will, is just incredible.
Well done,
like,
well done.
It's just he really has to figure this all out on the fly.
Yeah, it's like his day wasn't hard enough. He was floating through space an hour ago.
Like, we haven't faced 3 previously unheard of things already today.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm interested in it, and I'm interested in this. I like this idea that detailing someone, if you will,
Like getting your car detailed.
Getting your car detailed.
Yeah.
Is like the ultimate sign of disrespect because it renders them essentially defenseless and they can't do anything. Like it renders them like, I don't know.
Impotent.
Impotent. That's the word I want. It renders them impotent.
Yeah.
And like, I guess that's why they're chopping off the arms of the humans, because they think human arms are strong and therefore that's where they should aim because they don't have tails.
I like that. I like that as a theory a lot. Like they think they're literally disarming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
it's like a literal, it's like, this is what they do, but humans don't have tails, so I guess I'll go for their arms.
Yeah.
I have a couple sci-fi world notes that really hit me. One, I'll get the silly one out of the way. We learned the name of a Lyran god. We learned the name of Cha-Ma-Mib. Because at some point during this chapter, a frickin' hologram of an Andalite's head comes to wish them well in the battle that is to come. And because they're working together, they have to give thanks to the Lyran god.
Yep.
And also give like the saddest proclamation of you're giving your life to your people as an Andalite. Like,
Yes.
It's so depressing. So that's the good news. New god just dropped. But I will say that like they have a conversation about the tactics that are going into this war and about how like they talk about how 8% of the surface of Lyra is land and the rest of it is ocean, and that Lyra predominantly exists in the ocean. The Yeerks and the Andalites are talking about battling over the continent, and they're literally pretending that controlling that continent will be a conquering of the planet.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I just don't fully get it. Like,
especially because the Lyrans don't live there.
You could spend all day being like, I guess they could shoot any Lyra transport that goes to space out of the sky or something like, but I just don't see how that actually is feasible and how the war actually ends there. And the book also agrees with me on this as it eventually gets to, but it is just so weird that they push this as a viable theory.
I guess maybe they're planning to set up a ground base. To go out from.
For the Yeerks to launch their, and that's why they wanted the hammerhead sharks, right? So like, it's like a first stage.
I understand that.
It's like they're talking about the first stage of this invasion as if it's the whole fight.
Yeah, once they kill enough of them, they won't be able to mount a resistance, especially without the Andalites. So once they have their factories on land, they can go underwater with their factory equipment.
And I understand that. I'm just saying, like, they speak so fatalistically about the losing of the continent.
I agree.
And it just doesn't quite grok for me. It's just like, you're telling me these guys, like, the dome ship is literally an atmosphere, and like they couldn't like just exist in the sky somewhere for a minute? Or
I wonder if it's Andalite and Yeerk. I mean, it is. It's Andalite and Yeerk condescension. I feel like the Yeerks take, and I don't know if this is on the page, but this is my impression, the Yeerks are much more threatened by the Andalites helping the Lyrans than they are by the Lyrans themselves. And maybe they figure that the Andalites will not really be able to participate in the battle once it's
underwater. Despite, that famous Andalite power to morph. Although we heard that spies are the ones who are usually given lots of morphs. It's not like a battle technique.
That's true.
Which seems like a missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm. But they don't have a lot of diversity in their animals.
But as we're going to see as we move on, like, Andalites do have some underwater technology. Like, it turns out they're not as helpless in this battle.
Yeah.
Which we'll see in later chapters. I just wanted to put a pin in that because I understand it for plot reasons, and I understand that their mission was to take the continent.
Maybe it was always a bluff.
It could have always been a bluff. That's why only 1/3 of their forces were there in the first place.
Yeah.
It was a smokescreen of sorts to be like, the battle's up here, but in reality they're moving into the because how else?
I don't know.
You know? Anyway, all right.
What if Visser 4 never takes a host, and that's why they're so intimidating? They're just the little Yeerk, and they're on the dashboard of the
so
ship.
hot.
Cute.
That is so
I
cool.
thought cute,
I love that.
but
Yeah, I went with cute. Oh, but you mean that's so hot in like a Paris Hilton way?
Yeah. Like in a
That's
Charlie XCX referencing Paris.
you weren't
Hilton.
imagining a sexy little slug on a windowsill, like
No.
leading the ship.
Now I am. All right, chapter 15.
The time I got reincarnated as a slime. Let's go.
Would you still love me if I was a Yeerk? All right.
As the Ascalin continues its descent down behind Yeerk lines, Axe is frozen in place, shocked by the revelation that Captain Samolin, look, I got back there, has betrayed the Andalite
For
people.
yourself, you wrote it correctly.
But he is he merely a
fool of
traitor?
that, Chris.
Or is he another Andalite controller? And which one would be worse? Axe is unsure what to do. Tactical Officer Harlan continues to bleed out on the floor. Sad!
That guy's always doing.
The other Animorphs are still trapped in the ship's sick bay, and then it hits Axe. The traitorous Captain Samolin knows the Animorph's secret. In a few moments, he will be able to communicate the truth about the Animorphs' identities to the entire Yeerk Empire. Axe tries to contact the Animorphs through ThoughtSpeak to alert them to what is happening, but there's no point. They've been in the room the whole time as fleas and are already well aware of what has transpired. In fact, Cassie is not just present, she's hidden in the captain's fur. She begins to demorph to distract him, and Axe takes the opportunity, attacking him with his tail. The two begin to fight, both going for a killing blow, when all of a sudden Captain Samolin sizzles and disappears. Harlan has killed the captain with a blast of a Dracon beam. Harlan takes manual control of the Ascalin and orders Axe and his friends to morph something small. He will release them from the emergency hatch of the ship so that they could alert the commander of what has happened. This is an order, he says. Once they're outside the ships, the Animorphs will need to get as far away from the Ascalin as possible. Harlan asks if Axe understands. Axe does. Harlan cannot allow himself or the other Andalites aboard to be taken alive. And surely Harlan does not want to live without his tail. Couldn't he get it reattached? Harlan instructs the whole crew to perform the ritual of death as Axe and his friends prepare to fly out of the emergency hatch. Axe feels terrible. Once again, he would live while so many of his people would die. Before they leave, Harlan admits to Axe that maybe he was wrong. Different races working together, perhaps there can be a strength to that. He asks that Axe go forth with his humans and prove him wrong. All of the Andalites cry out at once in ThoughtSpeak as the ship explodes behind the fleeing Animorphs. Poor Axe!
So
Poor
epic.
Axe.
Poor Axe. It's like
The ritual
when
of death. I can't.
when he learns like that he's been betrayed by his captain and he's like, oh my god, the humans, he literally says in the book to himself, he says, it hit me like a dragon beam blast. And it's so fucking
It was good. It was very good.
So good.
It was, and yet they're in a scene where Draken beams are being fired. I feel like I read that at first, and I think I was a little bit confused. I was like,
I was
That he
totally
was
confused.
worried that he'd been shot.
I was totally confused.
But no,
yeah.
Andalites use shredders.
I have a problem that I want to talk about, and I don't know when to talk about it, because this chapter is unbelievable. Like, if we're talking about just, like, how freaking brutal, like, how brutal it is that they're, like, going down, because does he... Am I in the right chapter? Does he issue the self-destruct?
He does.
Yes.
Well, it's not.
So-
They're going to crash, and he tells them to do the ritual of death before he's gonna have the shredders fire full blast as they crash, causing a huge backfire and blowing everything up around them or something.
A self-destruct of sorts.
Now-
Like
yeah.
an improvised self-destruct.
do we think that on the other side of this door, they're on the bridge, and Harlan's saying it's time to perform the ritual of death? Do we think the Andalites on the other side of that door are performing the ritual of death calmly and just settling into this? Or are they firing out of escape pods?
Axe seems to think they are. He says that he says it along with them.
Yeah.
And he heard the echo of the voices doing it too.
I will say, I have trouble going to this imagined space with you because my assumption is it is very bleak. Yeah. My assumption is they might have built the ship without escape pods.
Yeah.
My assumption, because that's the sort of thing you see
that's
in
the thing
Klingon
Andalites
lore.
do, yeah.
Yeah, and you so I think that's what you're actually
they want them to go down with the ship.
is...
They can't be, you can't be captured. Now,
because
if you
dying
could
with honor is a huge concept.
Yeah. Now, on the dome ship, they did have a procedure to eject the dome. But on a battleship...
the dome was civilians.
Yeah, the battleships, I don't know that they would have...
Don't you think they built the whole dome that it would eject just for little Axe? Like, they just wanted Axe to get out
it was
okay.
just for Axe.
So Miranda might already know this, but for Eddie's benefit, in the first episode of Star Trek Next Generation... Do you remember the ship? It's like a frisbee with a bunch of stuff coming off the back. In the very first episode, they do a thing where they have to go into a battle. And to protect the people on the ship, it turns out that the big disc at the front of the ship is where all the people live. And they are able to detach that and send it away from the battle. And then they go to a second bridge called the Battle Bridge. This then almost never happens throughout the remainder of the series.
It was a pilot.
People didn't think it was that cool, actually.
It is literally something that happens in the first book, but I swear it is where they got that from. The idea that the dome ship detached and then the battle.
Oh, yeah. It sounds like they were
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching a lot of Star
I probably
Trek.
said that 74 recording sessions ago.
And 74 times since then.
You thought about it.
So here's my problem. Here's what and I've been talking a lot, so I want to hear y'all's take on this, and I'll say my piece as quickly as I can. I'm struggling. We morphed into mosquitoes. We popped into Z space. We find out later in this book that there is a snapback effect. We've even heard about it now.
Yep.
So we might go back to the mosquito morph. Holy cow, guys. Mosquito, fully fledged, functioning humans and Andalite in Z space, and now on the other side of the galaxy. And they somehow can still morph. Somehow that doesn't break the technology. And that to me is really interesting.
So they leave
because
zero
if they
space
morph
is
a
the problem,
flea, if they're flea, all their stuff is back in Z space.
Yeah, they've done it again. My thought is only that they've been temporarily fully separated from the mosquito mass that is currently existing on Earth. And as things will come to point out, time is not timing the way that we necessarily would think it would. And so...
Well, Z-Space probably doesn't have time. That's a good point.
And so in reality, they are not existing in two places at once, except that they are. So this has happened so that they can exist here, but their consciousness is only ever in one place at one time.
No, and I like that part of it. I think I'm just wondering if you can eject your mass into Z-Space, then walk out of Z-Space into regular space and eject your mass into Z-Space again. What will be the snap? Why would the snapback still happen? Why are they still linked?
Because you're still linked through your DNA to that mosquito.
But then why would DNA straddle the universe?
I don't know.
Okay, you're right. It's a sci-fi book. You're right.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting that, and maybe I'm wrong about this, maybe I'm not remembering, we don't get the moment where they transition from Z space to the inside of the ship, and that feels...
They just wake up. Because
that would get messy.
It's implied they all black out, but then like
and then
they're like,
pulled into a
they have like regular space, like it's like anti-grav technology, but for not Z space in their ship. Like, and that's never explained. So they're experiencing time in Z space when time doesn't actually exist in Z space somehow.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
Maybe my brain was distracted by the hundreds of thought speak voices crying out from the dying heroes on the Ascalin. Maybe I just couldn't think of it over there. There is another, the last thing I want to hit in this chapter is like, there's this awesome, cute moment where they do the morph thing that the books do. Because every time they morph, they talk about the morph and they do a morphing sequence. And there's a moment where Axe is like, I expected Technical Officer Herlin to be disgusted by us morphing into flies, but I guess he was too busy bleeding out of his ass.
Yeah, just dying.
Just dying. Like, and it's just a really weird, cute moment where he's like, I expected to surprise this dying guy. And it's like,
the only two things, one thing I want to hit real quick is that Axe receives an order, says he'll follow that order, and then the whole group looks to Jake and is like, are we doing that?
Oh,
and so like
right.
that's
to talk about that.
And I don't know how much we need to talk about it other than just like, and he goes back to calling him Prince Jake at this point too.
Just to clarify, like, Axe receives an order from a higher officer, then issues an order to his human friends, and then Rachel says, "I don't listen to you. I listen to Jake."
Well, she says, she looks at Jake and says, "What do we do?" Because she's
Jake
looking
says
at him.
What Axe just said.
So angry. Yeah.
Right. Rachel is pissed at Axe for thinking that he's calling the shots.
Yeah, and Axe doesn't, he sort of like meekly does it. He says, Prince Jake, we all have to morph small. Like, he's not trying to issue an order, but he is telling them what they need to do, which is like, and he seems to feel awkward about it, and he's reaccepted Jake as his prince in this moment. The other thing
is a lot, though.
The other thing is
Fairweather princes.
And I will keep getting into this, but like, Eddie was like, in the notes, if I may, Eddie said, how did this person go from being a friend of Elfangor of all things to a traitor? And I'm like, I think this is actually the pipeline of how they get them. The Andalites are so strict about their rules, at least publicly, and not bending them even for the greater good, like the order above all. Order above all things, and you obey those laws. And we met this captain, and he said he wouldn't believe that Elfangor breaking the law was a bad thing. And then we found, like, that's how they got to him. He was a person who was willing to bend things for the greater good, and the Andalites weren't willing to do that. And that's how the Yeerks radicalized him, essentially saying, like...
This is brilliant, because it's Alarin.
Yeah.
You're 100% correct. It's the quantum
the same,
virus. It's taking the matter in your own hands.
most of the Andalites don't know about the quantum virus and things like that. So they are behind the scenes making some sacrifices, but they're actually not for the greater good. They're for strictly Andalite good. Yeah. And that's like, but they're telling their people, they're indoctrinating their people that following the laws above all things, whether you think it is right or wrong, is the only thing you can do. And so I think a person who would say, I will never believe Elfangor did wrong, even if he broke the rules, is exactly the kind of person who could become a traitor. That's it. Sorry. I didn't mean to.
I love that. No, and I'm happy to run over.
Miranda, I think that all makes a lot of sense to me in theory. It's just that when we get on the page...
We don't get enough. We don't get enough. Because it feels like he wants to do the right thing, and now he's doing what to us is the clear wrong thing.
Yes, and the way that he says, I don't want to take a chance of injuring you. Visser IV would be upset if I injured the creatures who had been causing blah, 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 blah. And then he goes, it will all be over in a moment, and you will all be guests of the Yeerk Empire. They just wrote him in that evil Yeerk voice.
He's so, yeah, he's...
And it takes all of the nuance that you're communicating.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I feel like they set us up, and we'll get another moment where we meet a high-ranking Andalite who is immediately like, oh, I heard about Elfangor. Can't believe he broke the rules. That was awful. He's a good fighter, though. And I'm like, this is our signal that he's a good Andalite. Like,
right. But that's where I think Miranda's actually on to something, because Alaran, directly before being Yeerk, took matters into his own hand, was willing to commit war crimes, was saying that this was what needed to be done. And yet we have evidence that other generals are, like, not as into that.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know.
And so, like, I just think...
it's not on the page. You're right about
It's not all on the page. No, for sure.
Not, yeah.
And I think it would be easy to convince a person who believes that and who learns about something like, say, the quantum virus, that the Andalites getting involved is actually bad. And that the Andalites are doing more harm than good. And even if you don't agree with the Yeerk end goal, stopping the Andalites from interfering further could be a reason to align with the Yeerks.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of they're positioned as like the watchdogs of the universe in the way that the United States has been in global politics. And
we're the cops of the world, boys. We're the cops of the world.
And the other thing that just irks me in terms of like what I wish I had seen with, and it's not a big thing, because I think the more important thing is Axe is realizing that even someone who seems like a kind, good Andalite, in quotes, can be a traitor, and that's blowing up his whole world. It's the fact that they write Ascalin so that he seems like he's got a little twinkle in his eye in the first scene, and he's like, he's a little bit warm. He's playing good cop to Harlan's bad cop in that scene. And then, like, it's like they want to have the misdirect where actually the tactical officer is Harlan is the good guy. But it just feels like such a whip, like a whiplash feeling for me when he turns. But yeah, we don't have to keep talking about that.
It's really interesting because in terms of like, I don't know if this was me gaming the system when I read the book the first time, but I did not have the whiplash. And it could have just been how many pages were literally in my hand reading the rest of the book. But I just like was like, of the three who were presented to me, one is lawful good, one is curious scientist, and the other is the leader. Like the other,
he's
is
like the lawful neutral. Or
well,
like,
I don't know if it's that, but the technical officer is like literally repeating propaganda, and then
so I would say he's actually more lawful neutral than he is lawful good because he will follow the rules to the letter every time.
But I think Miranda was right. It was around the time where like he's ingratiating himself to the member. Like it's like there's a way in which.
He's just about to Yeerk a bunch of children, though, at best. Like, he might just kill them. Like,
Anyway, you're right. We should move on. And let's. So this is a chapter 16 for young Christopher. Let's go for young Chris, the Arist. Chapter 16. The Animorphs travel over Lyra's continent and Flymorph as they process what just happened and determine their next move. Should they go and alert the Andalite army of those events, or should they focus on finding a way home? Tensions are high among the group. They just watched many Andalites sacrifice themselves while they escaped, and Rachel and Marco are furious at how quickly Axe seemed to abandon the Animorphs to rejoin the Andalites. No one is quite sure what to do next. They focus on getting as far from the Yeerks as possible. As they fly, as flies, Axe realizes that Captain Ascalin could not have been a controller. The Ascalin has been traveling through space for weeks. Any Yeerk inside of the captain would have needed to recharge on Kandrona arrays multiple times during that trip, and there's no way that the captain could have hidden a portable Kandrona on the ship. The gang lands in a no-man's zone, somewhere between the opposing armies. They can take a break, but it won't be long before the battle overtakes them. Axe is lost in thought, reflecting on everything that's just happened. It's a terrible thing, Axe narrates, living when so many officers have died. It's a terrible thing because no matter what you do, a single thought keeps popping up in your head. I'm glad it wasn't me. Tobias flies off to get a better lay of the land while Jake confronts Axe. He knows that he feels terrible about what just happened, but feeling bad doesn't let Axe off the hook. He's their best shot at getting out of this alive and making it back home to Earth. Tobias reports back. About 1,000 Hork-Bajir are approaching from the Yeerk side, followed by armed ships and an army of Taxxons. The Andalites are approaching on the other side, but only with 12 ships and 100 Andalites. The Andalites seem doomed, Tobias admits. Axe says that they will have to reach the Andalite forces. That's their best move. Rachel asks why, so the Andalites can just betray them again? Without thinking, Axe puts his blade to Rachel's throat. But Rachel doesn't stop. She asks why they should help Axe return to his people if he'll just fall back into line, sending the Animorphs back into a corner while he becomes obedient and unquestioning of his superiors. Axe pulls his blade away from Rachel, horrified by his behavior. He admits that he was wrong to trust the captain and to dismiss his friends. He apologizes. All I can say, he tells his friends, is that none of you knows what it's like to be completely cut off from your own people. One of us does, Tobias adds, cheekily. Well, not cheekily, but Tobias adds.
Sadly.
Sadly. Axe says that he will follow Jake's lead until Jake personally dismisses him. That is, Jake will remain Axe's prince. For once, Jake doesn't argue with this. But the question remains, is there anyone on the Andalite side that the Animorphs can trust? Axe knows one person at least, Force Commander Prince Galuit and Ilion Asgaruth. Galuit lost his entire family to a Yeerk raid on an Andalite outpost. Axe says, his entire family, wife and 3 children, they died rather than be captured. Their bodies were fed to the Taxxons. We can trust Prince Galuit. We should trust no one else. All right.
Love Tobias coming to Axe's defense here.
Yes.
Marco and Rachel are, like, I get why they're being so hard on him because it did go terribly wrong, but, like, oh my God. Rachel's, like, bullying him to the point that he's like, I wish I died with them. And he's like, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. But, like,
And Axe puts his blade to her throat. Like,
he clearly feels bad. Like,
Yeah.
why are we doing this to him?
Yeah.
But
Is it Rachel bullying, though, or is it like her actually expressing the severity of what Axe has done in a
You're not
time-critical way, in a way, like her point is extremely valid.
and it's not like they're having a fight at recess in like the schoolyard. They just got off a ship that blew up, and the stakes are very high. Like everyone
the stakes are very high.
And I feel like, so she probably feels like, I could die if I trust you and you fuck this up, or I won't get back to my home planet. Like, I agree with you, Miranda, but I just also, I think what is so delicious to me about this drama is that Rachel isn't...
Taxxon hunger if I've ever seen it.
Is that no one is completely wrong, which just makes it a really good argument. And I want more of it. I want the kids to fight more.
No,
It's so brutal. Well, I
get it,
don't
though.
want the children to fight, but I want them to fight.
Yes.
It's hard to explain.
Yeah. What a good
This
chapter.
whole chapter it's one of the best.
And
chapters.
I'm sorry, I know we're
It's-
reading a ton for the episode descriptions, but I feel like so much happens in this book.
No,
And-
I'm grateful for it. Yeah.
And also,
Yeah,
I feel like, a peek behind the curtain, we thought about trying to do condensing multiple chapters
we did, and we said not this book.
this book, there's just
This
too
isn't
much
the
that
one.
happens
This is
in
not
every
the book. And we're not going to do it for book 19 either. I'll announce that here. We're probably going to wait till we get to the Ghostwriters to try a different structure.
Yeah.
But you're totally right. Like, there's nothing to slow down on. There's nothing to speed up on here.
Yeah. I mean, even just as much as, like, I really loved the whole Jake and Axe being like, I threw you out because I was putting the Andalite order above all else. But you know what? When I made you a prince, I put you into that Andalite order. You know what I mean? And like, you can't, like, a warrior is not free, like, is not let go from his prince until the prince lets him go. And you are my prince.
Yeah.
And I'm not questioning that again. Like, I've decided you're my prince, not just until we meet the Andalites again, but until you decide my mission for you is done.
And I think a good conversation that we should have, like a good discussion before we finish this book, is why there is an argument to be made, and maybe just in a different series like this one, it would have been the case. There's an argument to be made that Axe makes most sense to be the leader. Like, he could have showed up, met these kids, and whipped them into shape as his own little platoon. But Axe, I don't think Axe is a leader in the way that Jake is. And I think this book ends up being interesting as to why Jake is the leader of this group of kids. And there's a moment later where Jake, for once, doesn't reject, maybe a couple moments, where he doesn't say, don't call me Prince. He's like,
this is
okay,
one
right
of
now
them,
I'm Prince. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's a really
Which
good
is big
development.
for Jake as well. It's
Yeah.
a big development for Jake.
yeah.
Not just and that's what you mean. But it's like we've watched Jake grow into that acceptance of that role.
And he grew for us too. We accept him as Prince. So
We do.
Now his smile is still really slow in this book. I think that's
well, he
next
can't
chapter.
finish all
You
his
get the
character
slowest
development
smile.
by book 18. So
Gotta
Yeah.
speed that smile up.
he'll get there. I think. Yeah, let's talk about. Now let's see if agree on a pronunciation.
Galuit.
Galuit.
Galuit?
A little French.
Galuit.
Galuit.
Well,
It is a little
Galuit
French.
would be French because you wouldn't say the T, but
Galuit.
Galuit, I
But
think.
it must be because Captain Sommelier invited them to be Visser 4's guests, and he's Lumiere.
This is Lumiere, yes.
It's French. Yes, exactly. So it's
You have a
Galuit.
library?
I assumed that was a
Books.
Les Mis reference for a second.
With books.
That I used to rewind the VHS and watch the scene where Lumiere goes, with books? so freaking I just think it's so
really
funny
good.
to me.
It's almost as good as in the Lego movie when it's like business, 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 numbers. Is this working? Yeah, good.
And there's no way to really transition this, but Galuit, he's got a little bit of a bummer of a backstory.
Oh my
That's
God,
true.
it's so sad.
It's pretty sad.
Like, it's literally as dark as it comes.
Mm-hmm.
It feels very Anakin Skywalker, you know what I mean? Like
We can trust him.
Galuit's
Yeah.
not just gonna kill the Yeerks. He's gonna kill the Yeerks and Yeerks too.
But do you know what? Where I take my solace, though, is that it's just the Yeerks who wiped out his family. They didn't bring the Taxxons. They didn't.
No, they did.
Eddie.
Oh,
Eddie. Oh no.
Yeah,
Eddie, you might want to sit down for
Yeah.
this next part.
They fed. Well,
They
just
fed
the
his
wife. No,
family
not the
to
children.
No.
You
One
know,
child?
So
Tax
it
on hunger
started with
can't
the
be
wife.
stopped.
It started with the
And they were
wife.
still
Once you pop-
hungry.
Yeah.
Once
They're
you pop,
never
you just
not.
can't stop.
Same.
Uh-huh. Oh God, now I'm imagining an Andalite opening a Pringles can.
Pringles-
I'm
A Pringles
imagining
can of-
trying to shove a Taxxon into a Pringles can, and like when you open it, it
And
springs
it's
out
just a
like
little
one of those
Taxxon.
little fake, fake snakes.
Or maybe Taxxons prefer their meals when it's shoved into, when the bodies are shoved into the Pringles can.
You know, we might be in the middle of a losing war on an alien planet here, but we have fun. here.
Yeah. What's war if you can't laugh, right? So, no, it's very, very, very sad. You would think they would let this man retire after that, but now he's got all the time in the world, so
Yeah.
he can really throw
What's he
himself
gonna
into
do?
the
Sit at home and be sad that his kids aren't there?
Oh my God, Miranda.
What?
Oh my
I'm
God.
just saying.
We're empathizing with him, Chris. We're putting ourselves in his hooves.
And on that note,
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon.